Today we're going to talk about the new Kannada movie Kantara, a legend. There was a lot of hype on it on the social media in the last couple of days. I mean, there's been a list of movies, so I had to choose it to watch today. And after seeing a lot of reviews, I thought, let's go watch it and what's being said about it, if it really matches the hype. So, in two lines, if I have to define the movie, it's a battle between greed and faith, and the constant battle between that. And it's an average story with an extraordinary climax. If those are the only two lines that I can define this. So the plot is like it's a non-linear story, but in a chronological order. So the first thing is it reminded me of a father telling his son a tale of what happened in 1857 when there was a king's rule. So the king was bestowed and blessed with everything. He had a family, all his subjects were loyal, he had everything, but no peace. So he tried consulting a lot of soothsayers, a lot of saints, gurus across the country, and yet he wasn't able to get that peace. So one of the soothsayers ends up saying, you have to travel in order to get it. You'll have to, in pursuit of peace. So he sets out in pursuit of it. He visits a lot of shrines, a lot of temples, a lot of he dips in a lot of sacred rivers as well. But then he feels that emptiness still there. So eventually he gives up hope and travels to a remote forest where there is hardly anyone. But then he notices that he could hear an anklet, and but he can't see anyone. And he goes in search of the sound, which seems very soothing for him. As an audience, you tend to feel a little timid, a little scared, if you may say so. And he goes and follows the sound, and eventually he ends up discovering a stone which is being worshipped by the local tribals. But he finds peace at that very second, and he smiles for the first time. And he requests the villagers, I will offer you anything, but please let me take this sacred stone, which is considered as a demigod by the villagers. The villagers initially don't agree to it, and eventually a guy in the crowd gets possessed apparently by the demigod, who's the Daiva, Daiva. Okay, the demigod, and he starts it's unusually behaving, and he says that I'll come with you for your peace for generations, but then you'll have to donate your lands to these poor people. The king had no choice but to agree, and he takes the stone with him. And the stone also has an accomplice. Along with the demigod, there's also a fierce god called Guliga. So it's all based on that native village gods that not many are aware of, though I think Malayalis might find it interesting, because in the northern Kerala circuit, the Kannur and Kasaragod side, they have a similar concept called Theyyam, and the Guligan is also there. So the dance of the spirit also happens to be a sacred thing in the northern Kerala region. So coming back, so this is the set piece. Like this is what happens in 1857. Cut to 1970s. The king's clan ends up becoming landlords, and one of the landlords is an atheist, and he doesn't believe all these rituals. He doesn't believe in any of them. So he says, I want my lands back, and I don't believe in these sacred festivals or rituals. And he ends up provoking the demigod, the ritual performer, and he ends up provoking the demigod. And there's a bizarre incident after that. I wouldn't want to reveal and spoil it for you. And cut to 1990s. Now here is where the story is set around 90% of the time frame, wherein Rishabh Shetty is shown to be a reckless guy who just roams around the villages. He has no particular job, spends his time hunting and pissing off people, and goes for buffalo races and so on and so forth. He's always loyal to one particular landlord who's also from the same clan who wanted to get back their lands. So what happens here is there's a government officer who's posted, who's very strict and wants to conserve the wildlife and forest, and he believes that these villagers are taking it for granted. They're misusing the resources, they're abusing the fauna of the forest by killing the animals in the name of hunting. So the villagers revolt, and eventually there's a battle between him and the villagers at first, and eventually what happens is the crux of the story. So that being said, that's the plot, and like I said, it's an average storyline with an extraordinary climax. Why I said that, I'll get to that. So the pros in the movie, the nativity of Dakshina Kannada, it's beautifully shown. Of course, the Kundapura folklore, not many might know. The last year we had Garuda Gamana, Vrishabha Vahana, Rajbi Shetty and Rishabh Shetty. So these guys have a knack to attract even the normal audience to like their folklore, their nativity, their dialect of Kannada, which is soothing, which is music to my ears. I personally love their dialect, and this has the same traits too. They've treated it very well. The DOP was extremely awesome, and the music was good. Of course, a lot of music had the Tulu based thing, which which gets translated into subtitles in Kannada and English both. But then yeah, if people don't understand it, then they can't help it. And the next thing is Rishabh Shetty's performance as the ritual performer was like, I wouldn't want to divulge much apparently, but his performance is the only performance that I can see or remember after coming out of the theatre. The rest of the artists were okay, adequate at best. It wasn't a complete show of performance oriented thing. And comedy, hilarious, hysterical, to be honest. Situational comedy, that when we guys talk as friends, how we react to it, and I saw the theatre bursting out in laughter. Beautifully captured. Even in an unknown dialect, we still are able to get it. So that way, very, very well done, very well done. And the last 10 or 15 minutes of madness, that was the highlight of the entire movie. The entire movie can be put it in one box, and the last 10 minutes in another, and you will only remember the last 10 minutes because of the madness it has. Again, I'm not going to reveal much because it's going to spoil. And coming back to the letdowns or the cons or things that didn't work for me, I felt that like I said, there's nothing much to go on with the story. It's an average story with a lot of expletives exchanged, but even those expletives or abuses ends up tickling your funny bone. But yeah, nothing much to the storyline as such, and it made limited sense for atheists and rationalists. Please, if you don't believe in something, please don't go for this movie. It's simply not for you. And there's no clarity in a few characters that I noticed in the policeman's attitude. At first he is like that, like he is different. Next he becomes completely different, naive, docile. I mean, there's an incident that happens, but that doesn't justify his change of attitude, is what I personally felt. It didn't work for me, and it has traces of Rangita Ranga all over the place, the Bhuta Kola, and the worship of spirits. So it might be native to them, but again, I couldn't help it, but it kept reminding me that yeah, I've already seen this before. So that's not like groundbreaking stuff that the audience saw. They've already witnessed it before. This is just a new it's just a new milieu that they have entered. So, and lack of clarity in a few scenes. There's a wild boar. I'm not sure what they were trying to communicate. I mean, it's left to the audience to know what to deduce what it stands for and what it's trying to convey. But I felt there should have been a small explanation, at least in a couple of lines, as to what that meant. we are meant to, get a shock once in a while every time the protagonist has a nightmare. But why does he get it, and what's the wild boar got to do with it? There's no explanation as such for that, and I was a little disappointed with that. I mean, it's left to the audience's imagination, but then I felt without breaking the fourth wall, they should have at least given a completion. It was an incomplete thing for me, and it didn't work for me, I felt. And yeah, and and the characterizations of different people, uh, it doesn't stay in your mind. Like, you'll remember the face, but why they are what they are, as to it just doesn't stay up in your mind. Maybe they should have given some more attention to the rest of the characters, is what I personally felt. And the last scene just before the end credit, what were they trying to convey? I mean, when you watch the movie, you would understand there's a circle, there's a sacred circle, and something happens there, and then that's end. What does it even mean? I mean, is there a sequel? Are they giving a lead to something else? It wasn't clear. So yeah, the filmmakers have done a great job in the making, but I think the storytelling was something that really they really needed to spend some time on it, is what I personally felt. So either ways, my rating for this movie is 3 out of 5, and it's a decent watch. It has a few I wouldn't say vulgar, but there are a few sexually oriented scenes which might affect the kids. So it's definitely for 18 plus. There's a lot of smoking, a lot of drinking, a lot of abuses exchanged across. So it is definitely an A movie, if you ask me. So that's it from my end. Have a nice day. Bye bye.